Nah, even though I try to play it off, I'm thinking about you all day long. Come into this room and let me show you. Girl, change into that Victoria's Secret thing that I like. I'm fantasizing about what I'm gonna do. Touch me, baby. I'm just right there. You touch me like you can. I can't breathe when you talk to me. Oh my God. Don't break it. Oh, I can't breathe when you're touching me. It is, it is trying to put you back, suffocating you away from me. So much love I can take from me. I want it. I want it. You want it. You're going out of my mind. And I can never get enough of you. Holiday. They called him a one hit wonder, but the industry made sure you never hear him again. They said he vanished, that he peaked with one song and faded into R&B oblivion, that Jay Holiday was just another silk voice singer who got lucky with bed and then fell asleep on his own career. But what if that's not what happened at all? What if the real story is darker and more intentional? Because behind the scenes, there was beef, there were backroom deals, and there was a system that pushed Jay Holiday to the edge and then acted surprised when he stopped playing nice. This wasn't some lazy artist who couldn't keep up. This was sabotage disguised as silence. He was too real for the labels, too independent for the suits, and too outspoken for the gatekeepers who wanted him grateful and quiet. And when he dared to speak up, he got iced out. This is the story of how an artist with the voice, the pen, and the presence to become a household name was systematically sidelined, and how the people who claimed they made him might have been the ones who buried him. Because Jay Holiday didn't fall off, they pushed him. Let's start with how the whole one hit wonder myth even got legs. In 2007, Jay Holiday dropped Bed, a smooth, sultry track that instantly dominated radio. It wasn't just a hit, it was the R&B anthem. Every bedroom playlist had it, every slow dance ended with it, and for a moment, it seemed like Jay Holiday was about to join the ranks of Usher, Neo, and Trey Songz. But here's the twist. Bed wasn't even supposed to be his. That song, originally written by The Dream, it was reportedly meant for Chris Brown, but someone beat Chris to the punch. Jay Holiday, a relatively unknown singer with a four-song demo and everything to prove, ended up recording it first. Capitol Records cut the check. The rest is supposed to be history, right? Wrong. Because after Bed blew up and Suffocate followed with its own success, something weird happened. Instead of being celebrated as the next R&B star, Jay Holiday quietly slipped out of the spotlight. There was no scandal, no huge flop, no canceled tour, just silence. And that silence gave fans room to assume the worst. Was he lazy, unmotivated, a one-trick pony? The industry didn't say anything, and neither did Jay. So the narrative wrote itself. Jay Holiday must have fallen off. But here's the part they didn't tell you. His disappearance wasn't just coincidence. It wasn't personal failure. It was a slow fade, orchestrated by people who didn't like how loud he got once he realized what was going on. And as we're about to unpack, it had everything to do with who he crossed, how the label reacted, and why the man who gave him a hit might have secretly wanted him to flop. Because this wasn't just a fall from grace, it was a quiet and the real drama. Oh, it was just getting started. Let's be real. Jay Holiday didn't flop. He was flopped on. He came into the game doing everything right, blew up with Bed, proved it wasn't a fluke with Suffocate, delivered a gold certified debut album, Back of My Lack, and even snagged a Grammy nomination that should have been the beginning of a long legendary run. But instead of support, he got stonewalled. Why? Because he didn't know how to play the game. Or more accurately, he refused to. Jay wasn't some cookie-cutter R&B artist willing to sell an image for a check. He wasn't dressing how they told him to dress. He wasn't singing what they told him to sing. And most of all, he wasn't letting Capitol Records or anyone else own him. And that rubbed people the wrong way. By the time he dropped his second album, Round 2, Capitol had already started pulling back. Promotion, minimal marketing, practically non-existent. According to Jay, they even refused to pay for the album's photo shoot. He had to cover it himself out of pocket. And why? because he asked too many questions. He pushed back too hard. He made it clear he wasn't just some industry puppet. So they responded with silence, with budget cuts, with shelving projects and playing games with his career. He was labeled difficult, but what they really meant was uncontrollable. And you know how the industry treats black artists who won't smile on cue or follow the script. They get ignored, they get erased. Jay Holiday wasn't failing, he was being phased out. And the kicker, while all of this was happening, the very person who gave him his biggest hit was quietly starting to feel some type of way. Because in this business, success can make your friends feel like enemies, and one hit can turn into a loaded weapon when the wrong people feel uncredited. Which brings us to the dream. Okay, so let's talk about the real elephant in the room. The man who wrote Bed handed it to Jay Holiday, and then years later acted like Jay owed him his entire career. At first, things seemed cool. Dream and Jay had worked in the same building. They knew each other. There was mutual respect. Dream even publicly vouched for him in early interviews, calling him a good kid and acknowledging their shared grind. But once Bed blew up and the spotlight started to shift, the tone changed. Suddenly, Dream was throwing shade, telling people he made Jay Holiday, making backhanded comments that sounded less like mentorship and more like a man who didn't like watching someone else shine with his pen. And here's where it gets messy. That record wasn't even meant for behind the scenes. Dream had reportedly pitched Bed to Chris Brown first. That's right, Chris was supposed to have that hit, but when Capitol Records moved faster, cut the check, and handed the song to Jay Holiday, it became his breakout moment instead. So now, imagine how Dream felt watching this new guy become a household name off a track he maybe thought should have gone to his golden boy. Then came the petty drama. Dream wanted a public thank you. Jay didn't give him the flowers loud enough. And just like that, it turned from collaboration into quiet competition. Jay Holiday wasn't ungrateful. He never denied Dream wrote the song. In fact, he said he always gave him credit. But apparently, that wasn't enough because Dream started acting like Jay was riding on his coattails, like he was lucky to even be there. And let's be real, when a powerful producer feels disrespected in this industry, that energy travels. Suddenly, people in the room start pulling back, meetings get shorter, calls don't get returned, and you're branded as the guy who bit the hand that fed him. Whether Dream intentionally sabotaged him or not, the damage was done, and Jay Holiday found himself in a quiet war with someone holding a much bigger microphone. But that's not the only reason things fell apart. Now, let's get into one of the biggest reasons Jay Holiday's career got clipped. He refused to play the R&B dress-up game. From the jump, Jay didn't fit their fantasy. He wasn't the industry's version of polished art. He wasn't into shiny suits, soft smiles, and corporate obedience, and he definitely wasn't trying to be anyone's backup usher. The labels wanted silk and soul. Jay gave them hoodies and honesty. See, he came from DC, a city known for go-go music, not fake persona. His style, gritty, grounded, and a little rough around the edges. The industry didn't know what to do with that. They kept trying to mold him into something he wasn't, told him to wear church clothes, change his sound, soften his image. His response: "I'm not a child anymore. You're not gonna force me into anything." That's when Capitol Records really started acting different. They didn't like his pushback. They didn't like his independence. So they started making moves quietly. The rollout for round 2 rushed, promotions barely there. Jay claims they refused to pay for the album's photo shoot. He had to come out of pocket for his own visuals, while the label sat back and watched. And when the numbers didn't hit, like Bed, they blamed him. But how do you expect an album to win when the people behind it already checked out? The truth is, the moment Jay stopped saying yes, the label stopped seeing him as profitable. They started treating him like a liability, not because of his talent. He was still one of the best vocalists in the game, but because he wouldn't conform. He wasn't docile, he wasn't desperate, and worst of all, he knew his worth. And in this business, That's the fastest way to get ignored. But even after they clipped his wings, Jay wasn't done. He had more to say, more to sing, and he wasn't about to let a label bury him alive. So he went independent and dropped one of the rawest albums of his life. By the time round two dropped in 2009, Jay Holiday was already feeling the shift. Capitol Records didn't care anymore, at least not like they used to. The budget was thinner, the rollout was sloppy, the energy was off. It wasn't that the music wasn't good. In fact, round two had some of his strongest vocals, but the label treated it like an obligation, not an opportunity. And guess what? That energy translated. No major push, no massive promo, no investment. So, naturally, when it didn't explode like back of my lack, they threw their hands up and said, "See, he fell off." But they weren't telling the whole story. Jay had already started funding things out of his own pocket just to get the album artwork done. He had to pay for his own photo shoot. He wasn't even asking for the red carpet. He was asking for basic support, and still, they left him hanging. So, when he realized Capitol was more interested in control than creativity, he dipped. But instead of chasing another major deal, he did the unthinkable. He bet on himself. That's when Guilty Conscience was born, a 2014 indie project that Jay called his Take Back album. This wasn't a radio play, it was a soul cleanse. The title alone, a shot at the industry that tried to make him feel crazy for speaking up. He was tired of the games, tired of begging for a rollout, tired of pretending he was okay with the way things went down. Guilty Conscience wasn't just music, it was a statement. I don't need your machine, I am the machine. But even with full creative control, going independent came with its own challenges. The budget wasn't there, the press wasn't paying attention, and after years of silence, the fans didn't know where to find him. Still, Jay stood on his truth, even if it meant rebuilding from scratch. And just when he started to gain traction again, here came another problem. This time, it came with tour lights, controversy, and one very complicated co-star. So here's where things get uncomfortable. Fresh off his label drama and just starting to find his footing again, Jay Holiday took a major opportunity, opening for R. Kelly. Now let's be honest, back then, before the public reckoning, R. Kelly was still considered an R&B giant. Touring with him meant big audiences, major exposure, and industry respect, at least on paper. But behind the curtain, it was a whole different story. Jay said it best. He's a character, not in the fun way, in the I run this ship kind of way. Jay claims Kelly demanded respect from everyone around him, often crossing into manipulative territory. People bent over backwards to please him, whether out of fear, fandom, or both. But Jay wasn't built like that. He made it clear from the jump, I'm a man, I'm not here to I'm here to work. And that rubbed R. Kelly the wrong way. There were little power plays, moments where Kelly would subtly remind Jay, whose name was on the marquee. It wasn't outright sabotage, but it was definitely tension, the kind that creeps into dressing rooms, into sound checks, into press ops. To be clear, Jay didn't call him out. He stayed professional. He even admitted the tour was a learning experience. But that association, it aged like milk, because once the scandal surrounding Kelly exploded years later, anyone who'd shared a stage with him suddenly found themselves under scrutiny, even if they had nothing to do with the mess. The internet wasn't giving out passes, and Jay Holiday, he didn't need any more bad press. He was already fighting to prove he was more than bad. Now people were whispering about who he worked with, not what he created. And once again, instead of defending him, the industry got real quiet. Another opportunity that should have helped him became another reason to write him off. But even with the drama piling up, Jay wasn't done. In fact, he was about to go viral again, just not the way he hoped. Let's talk about that moment. Jay Holiday was nominated for a Grammy, Best Male R&B Vocal Performance for Bed, and while the category was stacked, the nomination proved he wasn't just some fluke with a catchy hook. He was respected, he was official. But when the award went to Mary J. Blige, the media barely blinked. Jay said all the right things, congratulated her, smiled for the cameras, but something felt off. That nomination should have launched his career into a new level. Deals, bookings, maybe even a third single push. but instead it felt like the industry used him for a photo op and tossed him back into the pile. It's like they were saying, "Thanks for coming, now stay in your lane." And to make it worse, the whispers start. Is he difficult to work with? Is he ungrateful? Why didn't the dream get a shout out in his Grammy speech? That's when the doors really started closing. He was shelved by Capitol, sat in silence on Def Jam for years. Then when he finally got his release, the industry moved on like he never existed. Jay Holiday didn't burn bridges. They were quietly demolished for him. And you know what happens when you're black male and not attached to a major cosign anymore? You become unmarketable, or worse, forgettable. It wasn't about talent. It was about politics, and just when he was finally piecing his career back together, the internet gave him one last slap in the face, a viral moment that painted him as bitter, outdated, and out of touch. But was that really the case, or was it another example of a man trying to speak up and getting crucified for it? If people didn't know where Jay Holiday had been, they definitely heard about him after this. It was a short clip, a red carpet, and Jay Holiday talking about female R&B artists. He didn't call anyone out directly, but he did mention Beyonce, Cardi B, and Suzy R in the same breath as what he called a pain marketing trend. His point that some artists were profiting off trauma and dressing it up as empowerment, that maybe the music didn't always have to hurt to hit. Now, was it the wrong message number? Was it the wrong timing and tone? Oh, absolutely. Social media cooked him. Memes, clapbacks, threads dissecting his entire discography. People were saying, "Who even asked you? Didn't you disappear like 10 years ago? Isn't this the guy who only had one hit?" Even Charlemagne the God gave him Donkey of the Day and dragged him. He told Jay Holiday to get in the game, or shut up, said he wasn't more talented than Mary J. or so, called him bitter. Was it harsh? Yes. Was there some truth? Maybe. But the response wasn't about the message. It was about who was saying it. Because here's the thing, if Kendrick Lamar had said that same comment, it would have been called poetic. If Drake said it, it would have sparked think pieces. But Jay Holiday, nah, he got labeled as the washed up guy from 2007 who's mad that women still win, and he admitted it. He said flat out, "Y'all prove my point." The first thing people did was tear down a black man for speaking his opinion, but the damage was already done. That viral clip reinforced everything the industry had quietly been pushing for years, that Jay Holiday was stuck in the past, irrelevant, and bitter, and it overshadowed the truth that this was a man who had survived multiple label betrayals, industry pettiness, and a system that never fully embraced him, but still had something to say. He wasn't hating, he was hurting, and he was tired of being silent. But after all the chaos, after all the pushback, Jay Holiday didn't give up. Instead, he did what real artists do when the world stops listening. He came back. Most artists would have tapped out by now. Grammy nominated, blackballed, publicly clowned, and written off by the same industry that once praised you. Yeah, most would have taken that as a sign to quit, but not Jay Holiday. Instead, he went back to square one, but this time on his own terms. In 2013, he launched Holiday Music Group, his own label built around creative control, ownership, and loyalty. No more being told what to wear, no more waiting on budgets that never showed up, no more begging execs to care. He became the boss, and in 2023, he dropped a new single that changed everything, 25 to Life. Let's be real, the title alone was a statement. Because being in the music industry, it felt like doing time, always following orders, always being watched, always punished when you push back. But this time, he wasn't doing the sentence for someone else's system. He was owning his story. He called the full album Time, and it wasn't just a comeback, it was a reflection, a reset, a reminder that Jay Holiday didn't vanish. He reloaded. The vocals were still crisp, the emotion still raw, and the message crystal clear. I'm not here to chase trends, I'm here to chase truth. He's been vocal about what went wrong. He doesn't sugarcoat the label, sabotage, the dream drama, or the industry hypocrisy, but he's also not stuck in the past. He's focused on his now, on making music that means something, on proving that being written off doesn't mean you're done. It means you've got nothing left to lose. No middlemen, no filters, just him, a mic, and a second chance.
Because if the industry tried to bury him, he just turned it into a rebirth. Jay Holiday's story isn't one of failure, it's one of friction, the kind that happens when talent meets a system designed to control it. He didn't vanish, he was muted, he didn't fall off, he was boxed out. From Capitol Records' quiet sabotage, to Dream's ego-driven entitlement, to the viral moment that reduced his pain to a punchline. Jay Holiday's career has been a case study in what happens when a black artist refuses to be molded, managed, and muzzled. And yet, he's still here, still writing, still singing, still owning his voice in an industry that once tried to erase it. So next time someone calls him a one-hit wonder, just remember, he had hits. What he didn't have was protection. And maybe the question was never, where's Jay Holiday been? Maybe the real question is, why did the industry work so hard to make sure you forgot?